Michel Siffre did not enter the cave to hide from life. He entered to ambush time itself. No watch, no sunrise, no voices with mercy. Just black rock, wet air, and a mind left unguarded. At 23, he wagered his body against darkness and dared his own brain to keep its shape. Beneath a glacier, minutes stopped behaving like minutes, and memory began to rot at the edges. Hunger lied, sleep mutated, and the silence pressed so hard it felt almost predatory. What cracked first was not his courage, but the pact between the human mind, light, and day. By the end, he would count 5 real minutes as 2 and believe a missing month still waited. That was not a hallucination or a stunt. It was evidence strong enough to shake science awake. Astronaut planners, military researchers, and sleep scientists would later follow the shockwave. But first, there was only one man, one bulb, soaked boots, black ice, and a silence with teeth. Subscribe to the channel, like and share this video. Thank you. Now let's get back to the experiment. In 1962, Siffre was a young French geologist preparing to study an underground glacier in the Alps. The original plan was modest: spend about 15 days below and collect geological observations. Then he made the decision that turned a field trip into a scientific rupture no one expected. 15 days, he thought, would show him the cave. 2 months might show him something deeper. He would not merely study stone. He would strip away time cues and study the human animal. So he built a simple but ruthless protocol around one question: what remains when clock time dies? He left behind his watch, any calendar, and every external marker that could anchor his days. No sunlight would touch him. No sunrise would reset him. No social rhythm would pull him back. His team stayed above ground and could not call down with hints about the hour or the date. He alone would initiate contact when he woke, when he ate, and just before he went to sleep. That one-way communication was crucial. Data could travel upward, but time could not travel down. The cave became a natural deprivation chamber, harsher than a lab, and honest in a primal way. His camp was cramped, improvised, and risky, more survival post than comfortable research station. The temperature hovered below freezing, humidity rose to 98% and never really let go. His feet stayed wet for long stretches, and his body temperature fell as low as 34 Celsius. He lived beside ice, rock, darkness, and the weak authority of a single electric bulb. A butane stove could warm him, cook for him, or poison him if the air turned against him. Even the tent carried danger, a fragile island of fabric in a place hostile to human routine. To outsiders, the setup looked almost absurd. To science, it was ferociously clean. Remove clocks, remove daylight, remove society. Leave only biology, memory, and a man with a notebook. Siffre read, wrote, thought, explored the cave, and watched his own habits like a suspicious witness. Sometimes he read Plato underground, as if philosophy belonged naturally to darkness and slow thought. He also ran tests whenever he called the surface team, because feeling alone was not enough. First, he took his pulse. Then came a psychological timing task so simple it now feels sinister. He counted from 1 to 120 at what he believed was 1 number per second. Above ground, the stopwatch told the truth he could no longer feel in his bones. What felt like 2 minutes to him stretched to roughly 5 real minutes in the world above. That gap was a revelation. Subjective time had not merely drifted. It had collapsed inward.
Inside the cave, his mind was no longer measuring duration the way daylight-trained minds usually do. He later said his psychological time had compressed by a factor of 2. That phrase sounds clinical. In lived experience, it was closer to watching reality bend without warning.
The cave did not scream at him. It erased distinctions. And that was more dangerous. Without changing light, the brain lost its ordinary punctuation marks. Morning, noon, evening, tomorrow. Memory stopped stacking experience into neat shelves. One dark stretch bled into the next. Siffre described it as one long day, because little remained to separate one cycle from another. He would wake, eat, think, write, rest, call the surface, and fall again into black continuity. The order survived. The feeling of order did not. This is where the experiment becomes psychologically unsettling even now. Human beings do not simply live in time. We scaffold identity with repeated temporal landmarks. Breakfast is not only food, it is orientation. Sunset is not only light, it is permission to stop. Take away those cues, and the mind must manufacture sequence from weaker internal signals. Siffre discovered that the internal system does exist, but it does not copy the outside day exactly. His sleep and wake rhythm kept running, yet it drifted beyond the standard 24-hour cycle. In his first cave stay, it stretched to about 24.5 hours. That half hour matters more than it sounds. Over days and weeks, it becomes dislocation. A person begins to slide across local time, even while feeling internally consistent. The body keeps time, but not the same time the planet keeps. That was the scientific breakthrough buried inside the personal ordeal. Before such work, internal clocks had been demonstrated in animals, yet human proof remained limited. Siffre's cave ordeal showed that humans also carry an endogenous biological timing system. Not a metaphor, not a poetic feeling, a measurable inner mechanism. Chronobiology, the science of biological time, found one of its defining human dramas in that abyss. But discovery is rarely elegant from the inside. From the inside, it often feels like confusion. Siffre was cold, soaked, isolated, and increasingly detached from ordinary duration. He could not rely on sunlight to sharpen mood, nor on conversation to confirm sequence. His environment rewarded endurance, not comfort, and demanded constant psychological adaptation. So what did adaptation look like in practice? It looked like letting the body choose sleep without shame or schedule. It looked like eating when hunger arrived, rather than when a clock declared lunch. It looked like accepting that 2 hours and 18 hours of sleep could feel disturbingly alike. It looked like learning that consciousness is a poor clock when memory loses its edges. And it looked like continuing anyway, because retreat would have protected the man, but delayed the truth. When the experiment neared its official end, the final blow was waiting. Siffre believed the date was August 20th. In reality, it was September 14th. He thought he still had about a month left underground. Imagine that shock. Not merely being wrong, but discovering your inner calendar had been amputated. He emerged with ski goggles shielding eyes that had forgotten natural light. He had entered to study a glacier, and returned having exposed a fracture in human time perception. Science noticed. So did institutions with strategic reasons to care. The Cold War formed the unseen backdrop to much of the attention his findings received. Space agencies needed to know what isolation, confinement, and temporal disorientation could do to crews. Submarine programs needed sleep schedules that would not destroy judgment in sealed environments. Military planners heard another possibility in the cave data. Could wakefulness be extended tactically? Siffre later said the French military funded follow-up work after cave subjects showed longer cycles. Some participants in later experiments spontaneously shifted toward 48-hour patterns. A common version looked like 36 hours awake, followed by about 12 to 14 asleep. That was not normal life. It was desynchronization under extreme isolation. Yet for strategists, even abnormal findings can look like opportunity. Siffre and collaborators also studied sleep architecture, including REM and slow-wave sleep. They found links between time spent awake and the amount of dreaming that followed. More wakefulness tended to predict more REM sleep in the next sleep period. They also observed that richer dreaming related to shorter reaction times after waking. For science, that linked timing, sleep stages, cognition, and performance in a new way. For military minds, it hinted at leverage. Perhaps fatigue could be managed, stretched, optimized. For space medicine, it warned that human timing systems may drift when earthly cues disappear. For psychology, it showed how identity, memory, and judgment depend on temporal scaffolding. Siffre did not stop with one cave. Over the next decade, he organized numerous additional underground isolation studies. Then, in 1972, he returned underground himself in Midnight Cave near Del Rio, Texas. This second epic stay lasted 205 days, about 6 months. By then, the experiment was larger, more instrumented, and watched with far greater interest. NASA analyzed his earlier work and helped fund sophisticated mathematical treatment of the data. In Texas, he wore electrodes that monitored brain, heart, and muscle activity. He wanted to see more than simple drift. He wanted the architecture of time under siege. He was also hunting a mystery that had appeared in other subjects, the 48-hour cycle. This time, he caught it in 2 periods, though not as a permanent pattern. He reported stretches of 36 continuous waking hours, followed by around 12 hours of sleep. And still the strangest point remained. Those long cycles did not feel obviously different from short ones. Psychological time did not faithfully report biological time. That mismatch is one of the deepest hooks in the whole story. We like to think experience tells us what is happening inside us. Siffre's caves showed that under deprived conditions, experience can become an unreliable narrator. You may feel coherent while your rhythms are drifting far from the social world. You may feel that only days have passed when weeks have vanished. You may think you are observing your mind when your mind is quietly rewriting the frame. This is why the experiment matters far beyond caves. Modern life is full of temporal assaults: shift work, jet lag, polar missions, submarines, spacecraft. ICUs, bunkers, windowless facilities, and digital lifestyles can all weaken natural time cues. Circadian research now shapes lighting design, sleep medicine, work scheduling, and performance science. The logic is simple and profound. Time is not only on clocks, it is in tissues and circuits. Hormone release, alertness, mood, metabolism, and reaction speed all ride these rhythms. Disrupt them chronically, and the costs can spread through mind and body alike. That is one reason Siffre's work remains culturally magnetic. It is science, yes, but it also stages an existential fear we instantly understand. What if you lost the day without losing consciousness? What if you remained yourself, yet your sense of sequence quietly came apart? What if darkness did not attack you with monsters, but with sameness? That is the special terror of his cave. Not spectacle, but erosion. And that erosion taught humanity something precious. We are not blank, rational machines who simply consult external clocks. We are rhythmic organisms, tuned by light, routine, and social synchrony more deeply than pride admits. The sun is not merely scenery. It is a biological instruction. Daily rituals are not trivial habits. They are rails that keep cognition aligned. Remove those rails, and the mind improvises. Sometimes brilliantly, sometimes dangerously. Siffre's courage was not only physical. He accepted the possibility that the observer and the observed were the same vulnerable creature. He made his own body the instrument, his own confusion the data, his own loneliness the method. That is why the story still grips audiences more than 60 years later. It is a tale of tactics as much as science. Control variables, protect protocol, endure discomfort. It is a tale of psychology, memory compression, temporal distortion, adaptation under deprivation. It is a tale of narrative irony. A man went underground to study stone and surfaced studying time. And it is a tale of human limits, which is why astronauts, commanders, and physicians return. And storytellers return too, because the cave makes science feel like a verdict on being human. The experiment did not prove that humans conquer darkness. It proved darkness negotiates back. Sometimes the brain wins by building rhythm from within, using biology as its last stubborn clock. Either way, Siffre forced science to face a humbling fact. Time is not only measured, it is lived. Deep under a glacier, with wet feet and a broken August, one man made that invisible truth visible. Subscribe to the channel, like and share in the comments what you think about this experiment. Thank you, and see you in the next experiments.